Hi guys, good evening. How do you do? And yes, that's another live tonight. And just have to turn up the music here. 1 second. So yeah, I'm back on my book, and I'm writing that book. It's my story. I should say that my story, kind of my story. It's a lot of truth. Um. So yeah, and I'm back translating, so I moved on very much, and yeah, so I'm super excited, and so what we have here, right? So yes, hello, nice to see you guys. Oh yeah, here. Let's have a bit of background. So yeah, yeah. How was your day? Look, I have butterflies. I'm painting rocks in between. Anyway, let's say focus. So today's chapter is about a road trip, which started in Berlin, exactly in a gallery with some people. By that time, random people, and yeah, it was planned for 3 days, but it went on longer. So, may I share some bits with you now? So, runaway road trip. I think that sounds better. Runaway slash road trip, right? Yeah. So, just a sec. So, excuse me. So, yeah, runaway road trip. Sometime, so it was February, we're still in the year 2000. Sometime in the middle of February, I was walking through the city center called Motte in the evening. And of course, I went to the institute. BB, called Ben, opened the door for me. He was really known, and he had normally a complete entourage around him. We never talked, but there was always a tension between us. Sometimes he followed me. For example, when I was still living on Linienstraße, he lived in the building next door and was loudly on the phone. He was always loud at the window and saw me. And I sat down at the corner of a small I sat down at the corner of Kleine Hamburger Straße in a cafe called Zeitgeist. And he came down and walked up and down, playing the monkey, and I pretended not to see him, but I saw him and, ignored him, but didn't ignore him, and, see me, but you don't see me. Don't look at me, but don't look at me, but look at me. This kind of game. Yeah, no. And until his missus came back down and whistled him back. Cheeky. Well, so BB at the event at the institute, he opened the door for me, at that, for me, very fateful event. My friend Alex, Institute Alex, how he was called back in the day by that time, was working at the bar again, and that was always nice. He will always kept an eye on everything. We always had a nice chat and so on. And suddenly, Peppy sat down next to me at the bar. He was also, wow. He was like a lot of other people. They were like, they belonged to the Institute gang, and I belonged to the Galerie 6000 gang. You know what I mean? Yeah. And yeah, so he was one of the gang. He sat down next to me at the bar. He was much older, and yeah, well, we had never really exchanged words before. I always thought he was weird because he was completely over the top and always had twitches from this fast stuff he was taking. Like, in Berlin they say peppen for instance, speed and stuff. And so that his name comes from there. His real name is Peter. So I think it's mixed. But anyway, well, this time it was different. And I have to admit, sometimes you have to look at people more closely. That's true. I say often, walk 10 miles in my shoes, before judging me, Anyway, so, yes. We had a lively chat, and he told me that he had cancer. He just got diagnosed and so on. Yeah, and he was obviously very much processing it. And then he was about to leave with a lady friend to Amsterdam and stuff. And that he wants to take Charlie, that charismatic guy, also belonged to the Institute clan. And he had these marvelous high-8 cameras, which was very common back in the days, and with him to film. Well, through the conversation came about that I could suddenly come with him. And so that I could suddenly come along. That sounds nicer. And I quickly ran home to pack my things. I was super excited. And we met again a little later at the Institute. And then I met Suze's giant darling dog, kind of Rottweiler or something like that, called Gavin, and Max. Max was only 2 years older than me and exactly my type, like blue eyes, blonde hair. Suze was in her mid-20s from Jena, which was very clear when she started talking. It was very, very hearable. Charlie came to the VW bus shortly and handed over the camera and bag and winked at me. Oh, and I thought, oh, Charlie. I really kind of liked him, fancied him a bit. He was very, very handsome. Like, very handsome. I mean, I kind of like a lot of people. A bit polyamory, maybe. Why not? Sometimes it's okay, right? So, anyway. So, yeah. It was agreed with Charlie that we would be back in about 3 days. Charlie needed the camera back on time, or needs the camera back on time. I still have to make corrections later with the grammar and everything, And yeah. So we drove off. Suze's dog had been farting all the time, which was extreme. But it went away quickly. by opening the windows constantly. I was completely silent and sat in the back of the bus next to Peppy, as I was already a bit more familiar with him than with the others, as we had that charming conversation earlier at the bar. Yeah. After all, I already knew him from a good conversation. Peppy was lying stretched out in the bus. Max was sitting opposite me, and everyone was discussing wildly and loud all kind of things and about Berlin, the institute, music, normal stuff. And I was diligently shooting thick hash joints. Or should I say, I was diligently rolling thick hash joints, or just joints. I think rolling is better. What is it? Let's keep it with that. Peppy was happy, and I made myself useful. I was a good little guy too, or let's say I could say I was a good egg. I was such a good egg, wasn't I? Lovely, so innocent. Yeah, one of the guys had a pack of brown sugar with, which we snorted in one of our many stops. I felt sick. Heroin makes you look beautiful at first, but you really can't move much. As soon as you move too fast, it makes you feel sick. Well, at some point, we arrived at the Dutch border the next day in the early morning and took a long break in Apeldoorn, a small Dutch town with a coffee shop, a smokehouse. So yeah. I stretched my legs. I was struck up and really dizzy through the walked dizzy through the town. It was also carnival. And I was really slightly paranoid. And I was by myself. I didn't know where the others were. So kind of it felt good that I was surely on my own. But also it felt weird. And yeah, all of a sudden I got flashback alarm, which was shit. And I just thought, why have I ended up here? Gosh, all these snobbies, these snobby people, and these townies, and I didn't even have sunglasses with me. It was too much. Well, the others were somewhere. After a while, I managed to find the car. No, after a while, I have to say, just a sec. After a while, I managed to find the car park and the VW bus by pure chance. Well, yeah, it was really small, but The others arrived almost at the same time. We drove on. Galvin, Suze's darling dog, kept on farting. He was quite windy, to be frank. I just thought, what does this woman, oh no, should I say, what does this woman give him to eat? Well, at some point, I got so tired that I didn't even care about my shyness anymore and Galvin's fumigations. At some point, I woke up and later, at some point, can I say that? Later, at some point, I woke up and was the middle of the night. I was lying squeezed in between Peppy, this old bloke, and Suze, the woman I didn't even know. in the back of the bus in full assembly. I had never slept like that before. I couldn't see anything outside either. Well, luckily I fell asleep again straight away, which is unusual for me. But, at some point, when it was already getting light, I woke up and just wondered. I wondered, really. It didn't look like Amsterdam to me at all. We were only an hour and a half away from Amsterdam. All I could see were green hedges and a country road and a meadow. That was it. Susan woke up at some point because her dog had to go out too to make a good poo, a dog poo. The poor dog. Well, we chatted and I asked her, astonished, really needed to know what was going on. A, where we were, and B, where's Max? Peppy woke up, and yes, there must have been something going on during the night. They threw Max out on the way. He must have been gone psycho, like really berserk. I don't know. I don't remember. I didn't eat anything. And they got into rough discussion, especially with Susan. And yes, we were back on German soil. What the fuck? So Peppy and Susan looked at me suspiciously. I could hardly believe that I didn't notice a thing and had slept off my drunkenness in a completely comatose state. How could I? How could I not? I mean, honestly, how could I not? Yeah? Well, yeah. Hash is better than weed. Yeah? It's more pure. It's stronger. I don't know. Well, Peppy didn't want to go to Amsterdam anymore, so we followed his nose and went to Rheinland-Pfalz, another region in Germany, southwest Germany. So more precisely, to Kultur. Sorry. And the first arrival was one of Peppy's sisters, the wealthiest of the three sisters. She didn't like us at all. Peppy said he was just sorting out a few things and wanted to report what was going on with him, of course, So Susan and I stayed with the dog in the Susan and I stayed with the dog in the VW bus down the road and waited and waited and waited and we waited and waited and waited because Peppy said he's back soon, Well, he didn't. And Susan and I, we got to know each other quite well. And at some point we got to sleep. And when we woke up in the morning, really cold, it was freezing. Peppy still wasn't there. And we were really hungry. I mean, really hungry. And it was really freezing. I hadn't seen a shower since Berlin either. Very unusual, I have to admit. Well, Susan and I really wanted to get something to eat now and see if we could get anything out of the ATM. Meanwhile, in Frankenstadt, Frankenthal, another district town, so meanwhile, let's say in Frankenstadt, another district town, Susan and I, we were walking down the road, and Susan was texting me about her love life and her literally obsession with Gerd Dost from the Institute gang. I just shook my head. Another lady who's a slave to him. Honestly, I couldn't believe it. He was always suspicious to me. honestly, it's like this guy is a fucker. I must admit, I was very young, but I knew this guy is a fucker. We managed to get about 8 Deutsche Mark out of an ATM and bought something to eat. And Suze was apparently good in stealing. Oh, at stealing, sorry. Suze was apparently, I have to say that, apparently good at stealing. So we got quite a bit together. And then we went back to the bus. Susie cleaned up the mess, and then she made it very clear to me that we needed petrol, or we wouldn't even be able to get back to Peppy. She held out a 5-liter petrol canister and told me that we will stop at the next petrol station, and I have to fill up the canister while she is still rolling the car, and then I have to quickly get back into the bus, and so on. Well, never done that before. Well, I felt really squeezy, and well, I got ready. We found a well-located petrol station nearby, and I went to the pump and excitedly filled the canister while my heart was beating, I can tell. And well, Susan turned around towards the street with his VW bus, and the motor was really noisy, it's really loud. And she called me like to hurry up. So he's just ready, you know. It's like, okay. And I ran then with this canister, which off with it, and I could hardly close the canister. Yeah, and it was really like my heart was beating. I could barely breathe. Well, I just made it, and Susie accelerated. Well, we made it. We had another 5-liter. Cool. That was something. And we came back to our meeting point, and Peppy wasn't also available all of a sudden now. And so we should come to his sisters, which we did. It was nice and warm there, and we soon left. The next stop was Frankenfeld. Another sister, also blonde, working class, totally sweet and benevolent. I took a nice bath and soaked myself. It was about time. Yes. There were fresh clothes, and my laundry was washed and clean and dried the next day. What a lovely sister. Very lovely lady. And like a really mother type. You know, I love women like that. But, you know, if you're dating me, don't, you know, push me to meet your parents. I'm not into that. So, it was great. I was myself again. So we visited Peppy's mother nearby for short, and it was already Sunday. There was another carnival procession. That's really big in Germany. Honestly, it's like these carnival processions are awful, and all these things around it, and the TV shows about it, and the music and the songs. It's like it's really awful. So anyway, we were all so warm with each other now, and Peppy wanted to start filming. Peppy insisted on driving because it distracted him from his pain. He told us a lot of things. I was sitting next to him most of the time, and yeah, he told things about his life and the artistic life in Berlin, and he was enmeshed and entangled with a lot of artists, especially with BB. And he told life lessons in general. Well, Pappy put his dentures on the shelf next to the steering wheel and told me to start filming and showed me exactly how to hold the camera and stay flexible with it because I had no stative. I've never forgot. It's really easy. So you have a normal camera. You have always to put one hand underneath. It's true though. It works. So we took relatively frequent breaks at rest stops. Once, at a somewhat larger rest stop, the camera was still running, and Susie was in the back. She got out of the car, on the side from these buses. I got out, and the camera was still running, and I think I just left it there. So Peppy was still sitting in the driver's seat. The girls had already got out. And when Peppy said, so he said, and asked if he could please steal a few, this glue, this ultimate glue, which really glues everything, I don't know how to call it again. Anyway, glue. He needed like a special glue. Because his dentures were cracked. Blimey. So, yeah, Susan was good at that. So she did it. And she did also get some other stuff because I didn't want to do that. Honestly, I didn't want it to. And she was really professional, I have to say. So I just walked with her innocently. And yeah, so when we had everything together, we went on, more precisely, we went then to Bayreuth, which is belongs to Bavaria, but also Bavaria is splitted. And yeah. So everyone did a film. So we had 3 videos at the end. They still exist. And yeah, it was quite fun though. Interesting. I mean, would I nowadays go with random people on a road trip? I don't know. Maybe, but I would definitely maybe sleep. I mean, I would have my own tent or a hotel, Airbnb, you name it. But yeah. So yeah. So that was Peppy. Yeah, and then he at the end when we were coming back to Berlin, we brought him then to. I think this travel for him was particularly to get closure for himself because he just received the diagnosis and spontaneously wanted to make a trip and see everyone and relatives, which is very logic, when you think you just have probably just a few months left. He was living much longer. He must have died in 2050, something like that, in autumn. So he made it much longer, 15 years longer, where he originally thought and was told he must have maybe 6 months left. Bless him. And so we brought him to the hospital, Benjamin Franklin, in Berlin. And Susan was waiting outside, and I came with him, and we were. I came inside. I was partly with him when the doctors were talking to him. And then he came with us outside, and I don't remember, because after that he was actually in hospital. And I think he stayed then. And he stayed about like 2 weeks, something like that. Or he went in there and then back a few days later, because he was there then for a short amount of time. And I think also for an operation. Until summer of that year, I think he had already like 5 operations, like quite much. And his look changed drastically. And later, when he was better over the years, he looked completely different again. Yeah, so I was hanging out with him kind of often, because then he was more living at a friend's place outside Berlin in Erkner, and I was often there. And yeah, he did a lot of photographs. He was a very good photographer as well, and was a nice family, his friends, and nice people. Yeah. So that was my stream today. Thank you for listening, and I really love that project. I'm super excited, and yeah, I love that. Doing that channel, I know it's still new, but it's exciting because it inspires me even more. Because honestly, if I look back, I'm not for long in the UK that I have even the courage to translate it in from German into English while writing the German bits. And it's really what I have in German I already have in English. Not kidding. So I think by now I nearly have the first quarter of the book. The first triple. I don't know how you call that. Anyway. So remember what Margie says. I continued watching her videos. She's so lovely. And yeah, and I also saw some good stuff from Russell Brand again. I can recommend that. YouTube is full with good stuff and inspiring people. And so and I love her quotes, like she says, God hired me, who's gonna fire me? Exactly. Sometimes even when I get inspired and watch something on YouTube, I make notes, of the quotes. I love that. I'm collecting affirmations. Yeah. Anyway. God hired me. Who's gonna fire me? Exactly. So love yourself. Be nice to yourself. Spoil yourself, and get inspired. Inspire and get inspired. That's all I give. Lots of love. Bye.